Oh, here we go. Going live. It's live. Okay, we are live. All right, all right. I'm just gonna give a quick minute for everyone to just trickle in here. Okay. All right, I guess I'm just gonna start right now. All right, well, thank you everyone so much for coming to our talk today with Patrick Colucci from AWS. Now, before I have the real pleasure of oh, are you hearing echo? Is that just
No echo on my side.
okay? Sorry, sorry about that. Okay, let me try that. Yeah, so I have the real pleasure of introducing Patrick Colucci, who was my manager at TechU at AWS, to give a really amazing talk about what side projects and why they matter. And Patrick Colucci, I've learned a lot about Patrick over my 6 months of training at AWS, and he's written a book, he's developed games, and there's some really cool stories that Patrick has told us throughout the 6 months. And I'm so excited to be able to introduce Patrick to share some of Patrick's experiences with everyone. So please give a warm welcome in the chat to Patrick Colucci, a senior technical trainer of AWS.
Thanks, Tay. And thanks for having me. Pretty excited to be here, even though all things are virtual. Why don't I go ahead and share my screen here, and we'll get started right away. All right, don't peek yet. All right. So I've gone into presenter mode, so I am not able to see the chat. So I guess Tay will collect the questions and we'll circle back to them at the end. I expect to have at least 5 minutes or so of Q&A at the end. So if you have questions, just drop them into the chat. We can address them throughout. We could address them at the end. But again, feel free to ask throughout. All right. So, side project. So yeah, good afternoon and good morning to wherever you're joining from. As I said, I'm really excited to be with you today, even though we're all virtual. Before diving into any sort of personal introduction and today's topic, I like to first open things up by introducing a few people to your screen. Obviously, just pictures of them. I don't expect you to know each and every one of them, but surely you can recognize at least 2 to 4 of them. All right, let's start with on the bottom right-hand side of your screen here. I'm not sure if you know who this is. This is Adam Newman. I'm not sure if you know who that is. Don't Google it. To the left of Adam is Craig Newmark. I'm not sure if you know who Craig is. To the left of Craig, we have Gagan Biyani. And then in between them, you might be able to recognize that one, Paul McCartney. And then in between Craig and Adam, we of course got Jay-Z and Kanye West. And then in between Kanye, we have Chris Wanstroth. And then floating in virtual reality towards the right-hand side of the screen, we have Palmer Luckey. All right. So I guess at this point, you're probably asking yourself, why am I showing you this group of people, each with such diverse professions? You probably guessed it by the title of this talk, is that they're each pretty passionate about side projects, or at least one in particular. So if we flip all this around, you'll be able to see what side projects they have worked on. All right, so we got Oculus, we got WeWork, we have Craigslist, we have Udemy, we have Liverpool Oratorio, which you probably haven't heard of before, Watch the Throne, GitHub. So, all these folks are at least passionate about at least one project that they've worked on. Some side projects have been a little bit more successful than others, but one thing's for certain is that each side project has provided the long-term benefit of learning something new. So let's flip these around to see who they were again, and allow me to tell you a little bit more about each of them. So starting again on the far right with Adam. So before starting WeWork, Adam was selling baby clothes with padded knees out of a small little building in Brooklyn. As a way to make a little bit more extra cash, Adam and his co-founder leased some space in the building that they both worked out of. And they opened up a green co-working space. So while they sold their stake in that in Green Desk, which was the original co-working company, they used that money to start a different co-working space, WeWork, which of course now you know is valued over, I believe, at least $20 billion. We shift over now to Craig. Craig, as a newcomer to San Francisco in the early 90s, Craig created an email list for local events to help him meet people. Craig's List, I'm sure you get it. It caught on, and people started using it more and more for just meetups. But it eventually inspired Craig to quit his day job and build Craigslist into a billion-dollar company that it is today. Now we switch over to Gagan Biyani, the Udemy co-founder. He was looking for a way to get out of his position at a consulting firm, so he turned to his side project, Udemy, which is now a platform as you know it, where you can create and sell online courses. And today it boasts well over 42,000 courses, and I believe it's raised over $170 million to date. In fact, I just used Udemy this morning for my own personal stuff. Now, switching over to Paul McCartney real quick. We're almost done here, I promise, and we're going to jump into the real meat of things. Liverpool Oratorio. All right, but why am I talking about this specific side project? Because not all side projects need to be successful to be successful. And I'll talk about success criteria in just a second, but the hardest working Beatle may have had plenty of successful bands and projects following the breakup of the band that made him famous, but his Liverpool Oratorio project wasn't one of them. It was a 8-movement classical piece, not classic rock, like classical music, that loosely told his life story. So Chris Wanstrath, in between Kanye and Paul, he's the co-founder of GitHub. And him and his co-founder were building websites for CNET, which some of you might know, the tech news and review site. And they were upset with how difficult it was to change open source code. So they built their own repository, working nights and weekends. And now with close to 20 million users and hundreds of millions of dollars in venture capital, their side project is front and center. Jay-Z and Kanye. So Watch the Throne was a side project and one of my favorite albums. Within 24 hours of the Throne dropping, it was #1 on iTunes worldwide in 23 different countries, and sold over 430,000 units, making it #1. All right, last but not least, Palmer Luckey. He worked at USC's mixed reality lab, but at night, he'd go back to his garage and try and build the future of virtual reality. So after one of the most successful Kickstarter campaigns ever, Palmer quit his job, he dropped out of school, and would go on to sell Oculus to Facebook for a cool $2 billion. And that was before they even had a consumer product out. All right. So why am I here? Surely I haven't created a $1 billion startup. No. But my side projects have helped me drive my career. Other side projects have led to self-sustaining side businesses and full-time jobs and billion-dollar startups. To name a few: Google, Twitter, Todoist, SpaceX, Apple, Product Hunt, Trello, and more. While all side projects might not end up with financial gains, the long-term benefits of learning something new are a little bit more useful. And that's what we'll look at today. How side projects can save or build the path for your career. More specifically, we'll look at what makes a good side project, so you can get started right away. The thing is that not many people or companies will pay you to learn new and valuable skills. These days, on-the-job training is more of an exception than it is a norm. But the main reason why I start side projects is to create something that I'm passionate about, something that I care about. But again, most importantly, to learn new skills and new technologies. On the other hand, after graduating, some of you may already be connected to jobs right away with internships or paid work. Others might not be as fortunate. Some employers might already want applicants with work experience that they might not have. So with that being said, sometimes you have to take your career into your own hands, and you have to do that with all the resources that are available to you. So your time, your money, your energy, each of these are finite resources that can propel you forward. So how you decide to spend your limited resources determines how much happiness you'll derive from your career. And that's something that I learned for myself as a fellow U of T graduate, like some of you are on here. I graduated from U of T back in 2013, then went to go work for some great companies before landing at my dream job here at AWS. I've been fortunate enough because of these different jobs to live in really amazing and beautiful cities like Toronto, where I am now, Scottsdale in Arizona, and San Francisco, before moving back here to Toronto. But what's helped me is understanding side projects can ultimately be your differentiator that makes you stand out over a candidate with a similar resume to yours. So today at AWS, as Tay said, I'm a technical training program manager for an accelerated career development program called AWS Tech U. And as you saw, Tay is a product of that program. So again, as I mentioned earlier, not many companies will pay you to learn new and valuable skills. On-the-job training is more of an exception than it is a norm. However, AWS is that exception with Tech U, which is one of the reasons why I love working at AWS. AWS offers this program that not only provides the time, but also the space for early talent like yourselves to develop their technical and professional skills so that they may later fill these hard-to-fill roles at AWS. But before great programs like this, what's helped me land my dream job was the countless hours of working on passionate side projects that led me to publishing my first book, launching dozens of apps on the App Store and the Play Store, attracting hundreds of thousands of page visits and downloads, and as I mentioned, helping me land this job at AWS. It's not only allowed me to get the skills and experience that I needed or what was required, but I was also able to show these projects and the data to back up the value of my new skills from these projects. You can see some of the projects that I've worked on here, a little screenshot of my Finder. This is just a few of them. The rest are in my cloud drive. But the takeaway from today's talk that I hope you see is that side projects aid in developing new skills, meeting new people, and it pushes you towards understanding different parts of the business. Honestly, side projects are an incredible journey for anyone at any point in their life or career to take. But you might be asking, what makes a good side project? How do I establish that criteria for success? And ultimately, how do I measure that success? That's what we'll talk about today. So these 5 points are what I think of what makes a good side project. Just my opinion, obviously. My personal opinion too. So side projects, first, it needs to be original and creative. And we're going to go into a little bit deeper on each of these points. But to start off, original and creative. Side projects are a wonderful space to exercise your human right to creative expression, right? You should do something that's interesting to you, something that's unique and different. Otherwise, what's the point? 2, it should be finite and lean. So keep it simple with minimal complexity. 3, it should upskill you. So it should teach you something new, something valuable. 4, it should make you some money. Maybe not that much money, but it should be measurable in some way. So whether that's through money or some other way to measure your success. And 5, it should be shareable, right? So you should be able to get the feedback that you need for your side project, and you should get the exposure for the work that you've done. So before jumping into it, full disclaimer, we're only scratching the surface today on side projects. There's so much to be said about what makes a good side project. I'll simply touch on these 5 points at a very high level by showing you real examples from my side projects. And with that being said, I'm simply sharing what I've been able to identify from my side projects, right? So I'm sure there's more metrics out there for what makes a good side project. I hope this talk just helps you enable or helps you identify your own metrics after today. You'll also notice on the bottom right-hand side, there's a little QR code. If you go ahead and scan that QR code, it will take you to an image of my slides. You can save the slides to your phone as an image. And I don't know if you guessed this, but that was a side project of mine, allowing anyone to upload their slides. This thing spits out your slides with a QR code on each and every slide, which will then allow the audience to go ahead and scan and take them to an image of that slide. Beslide me, that's what it's called. Beslide, like B-side, but beslide.me. All right. Anyways, jumping into it. First one, original and creative. Some of us might feel, whether it's in school or at work, that you might not get a ton of say in creative decisions, right? Sometimes you might just be seen as a program manager, or you might just be seen as a developer, or someone who maybe receives tasks and, I don't know, like writes code or something. But you might not be able to rebel against this notion at work or at school, but you can certainly do so on your own time. Your side project should be a place for you to not only develop your coding skills, but also your non-coding skills, right? So what do I mean by that? If you're building out an app or a website, for example, don't hire someone to design your app's user interface or the logo or the branding. Read some books on design and do it yourself. Don't pay someone to market it for you. Learn the craft and try and market it yourself. One example I have here, nerd.com, side project of mine. It's essentially a beef aggregator. So this platform hosts the most historical lyrical showdowns in music, and the least memorable as well, between two musicians or artists all the way back from the 1940s. It's an example that side projects don't always need to be serious or a formal thing for you to learn from. As you can see here, you can visualize the to and from beef via a network graph and view a little bit more detail on each artist. So it looks pretty polished, I think, in my mind. It's taught me a lot about like visualizing data, using various APIs to do this. But ultimately, I'm not a UX designer, but I designed this UX. And the way that I've done it was literally just drawing. It's so much easier to push your ideas with a pencil versus pushing pixels, right? Although I did draw this on an iPad, I think you get what I'm saying. The whole point is that don't copy and paste something. Don't just maybe take code from GitHub and use that to build it. Maybe that might help you do something, but try and build something yourself. Again, something that's original, something that's creative, and go into areas that you really don't have too much experience in. You'll obviously learn something new, but on top of that, you'll have products that will show off your new skills. So you'll have to be patient. It won't be long though before you'll then use that to join a different team or find that new job that better suits your new talents. Second, finite and lean, right? So as I said, start small. Start with something that you might find interesting or that you have your own problem for. As I said, keep it simple with minimal complexity. Break it down to like the smallest manageable tasks, right? And give yourself complete creative freedom, as we already spoke about. But the important part is that you're able to see the side project from start to finish, right? And it doesn't matter if it fails, right? The focus is on gaining that experience and doing something that you have a passion for, right? But when it's something finite and lean, odds are you'll be able to finish it, right? And that gives you more motivation to do more, right? So don't go and try and build like the next YouTube or the next eBay or like the next like iOS, I don't know. You want to have a side project that typically takes 1 to 3 months in length, right? That's just my rule of thumb here. And I like to plan everything out. Again, try and break things down. I like to document everything first about like what the project's about, what it's going to look like both technically and from a user perspective. I like to draw everything out in wireframes, create a back end, create a front end if it needs it. I like to do all the marketing myself and launch it. And what's also important is that if you set these milestones for yourself along the way, again, it gives you that motivation to finish the project, right? And something that you'll notice that it's not only just my name in there, it's not a bad idea too to work with others that might have more experience in the area that you want to develop in too, right? So, finite and lean. Upskilling yourself, this should be pretty self-evident. There are a lot of things that you can do in your spare time that won't teach you anything new or valuable. For me, that's Call of Duty sometimes. But when I first started feeling a little dissatisfaction in one of my first jobs way back when, and sometimes even in school, I did one simple thing. I went on to job boards. I went on to look at different roles that were open, and I looked at that desired list of skills, and then went about developing those skills that those jobs that I wanted were asking for. It seems simple enough, but it worked. When I would start side projects that would help give me those skills, right? And once I finish those projects, I'd be able to, go back to those job pages and apply, ask around, and I'd get substantially better interview opportunities. I also increased the quality of the teams that I also worked with along the way, right? So double whammy there. So one example, let's use this program manager job opening right now that's open on Amazon.jobs. What I like to do is, dig through this and try and find keywords that will stick out or qualities that maybe I don't have at that time, right? And then I would take those and find a side project that would teach me these things, or at least force me in that direction, right? So it gives you something to learn on your own time and prepare you for the job that you want, even if it's completely different from the job that you want to currently do. So takeaway is there a skill that you haven't mastered yet? Is it something that the workplace or that desired job values? Great. Then go ahead and start building a side project that will teach you that thing. 4, all right. If people are willing to pay money for your product or your side project, then it means that you've created something that's valuable, right? That's literally what it is by definition, right? It means that your new skills are valuable. One of the most motivating and concrete outputs of a side project is obviously the money that it could generate, right? Seeing that money pop up into your bank account, right? It gets kind of excited and even more motivated. We'll take away some dollar signs here, but it doesn't always have to be more of a financial success. There's other ways to measure success with side projects. That can be through downloads, right? Like how many apps or downloads or users on your side project? How many site visits are you getting? Are you getting any reviews on something that you've created? Are people looking at your app or at your product? If so, this provides concrete data back to your new skills, right? But the takeaway is that it's also great when your side project makes money, because money gives you a greater degree of autonomy, and autonomy makes you feel good, right? But ultimately, it can help you land that dream job that we're talking about here, right? So to even go something like as really simple as a hashtag, right? If you can somehow track if people are talking about your product or your side project that you've launched by a hashtag, even that is more than enough. Last but not least, shareable, right? You want to share what you've done. There's that famous quote where it's, you can't sell others if you aren't sold yourself first, right? So you got to be confident and you got to be proud about your side project. Share your hard work and be recognized for it, right? Sure, these side projects are for your personal development, but they're also meant to get you that dream job, right? So share and get the exposure that you want and that you need. Some examples are, I shared Beside Me on LinkedIn. Why? Because I feel like there's a better audience of people that would use Beside Me on LinkedIn. The book, I shared the book on Twitter because I feel like my followers would probably like the book more than my LinkedIn audience. One of my favorite sites is Product Hunt, which, as I mentioned earlier, is the product of a side project. And I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with Product Hunt already, but if you're not, you can share your side projects as products on here and get input and feedback from potential users and other makers on the internet, which is pretty awesome. And if things go well, then your product will then get featured, which was actually what happened with Throttle Block over here, which is one of my older side projects. All right. So I went through that pretty quickly. So apologies if that was really quick, but as you saw today, sometimes you have to take your career into your own hands, right? And you have to do it with the resources that are available to you, your time, your money, and your energy. Honestly, personal growth and development doesn't magically arrive. You need to put in the work to see those results, right? And the reward is being able to see where you started and all that you've accomplished, right? So how investing your time has made you better is something that I like to ask myself. Is like, what have I done that has made me better both personally and professionally? So give yourself the time to surprise yourself with a little side project, and you'll be able to look back and see how far you've come. So instead of me there, see my face there, hopefully you can see yourself building side projects after this. All right. Thanks for your time and attention today. I'm PS Colucci everywhere on the internet. So if you want to get connected with me, go ahead, please. I'd love to. And if TechU is something that interests you, or anything at Amazon that you may have seen today, hop on Amazon.jobs. A lot of great opportunities on there for you. All right. So thank you again.
All right. Thank you so much, Patrick. Can everyone just give a quick thank you to Patrick in the chat for his amazing presentation? Exactly where, Patrick is the person who taught me everything there is about presenting. And, everyone's been talking about how great of a presenter I am throughout this weekend. This is the man who's presenting. So thank you so much, Patrick. And I truly was lucky to have you as my manager. And now for the questions, I just want to quickly clarify that, if there's not much time left for questions, but Patrick for sure will be taking questions in his VIP, in the Discord channel, as well. Patrick definitely said, reach out to him, connect with Patrick, and super awesome guys. You can clearly see, and super nice. So he'll definitely, be getting back to you guys. So the first question we got so far was, how did you find data for something like the Rap Beef website?
Oh man, that one took forever. That probably took me like 7 months to collect. So like that started from me just being a music nerd and a data nerd, and just talking to some of my friends about oh, did you see this person's now beefing with this person? And like beef in music is a good thing for music, right? But it's obviously a very iffy topic. But I literally just did it manually. I had to go and like find and pull the data, enter it in myself, and I built out, I think I got like 1,000 entries on that platform now. But that was all manual. I'm definitely looking at ways of making it a little bit more automatic, but all that's manual right now.
Oh wow! All right, I'm just scrolling through the chat. If anyone has any more questions they'd like to ask, they can definitely ask it here. But I guess since I don't see a question as of right now, Patrick, do you have a favorite side project from all your side projects you've done?
Sort of. I would say like Rap Nerd's probably my favorite, just because I just love music. Honestly, I would say like my favorite side project was my first one, and I'm not just saying that. It was like a really simple app. This is, I think, in like 2013 or 14, where it was an app that just sorted through your Twitter feed and would only display tweets with links. Back then, there wasn't a lot of tweets with links. It was just like some news, and it would display it almost like a flipboard. That was my first because it got me really excited about doing all this stuff. It was a really bad app, but it got me so pumped for what I could do.
That's good. That's awesome to hear, Patrick. And so again, we have another question from the crowd. Do you ever go back to your past side projects to improve them?
Oh, yeah, a lot. There's one from 2014 that I'm going back to work on now, or not going back to work on, but reinvestigating it to see if it's possible and see if I have the time to do it too.
Oh, and I see another fun question here that said, who is your favorite musician, Patrick?
Oh man, you could probably tell from behind me. Kanye is like, I know it sounds so like so mainstream, but I like Kanye, man. Kanye's a good artist.
Fair enough, fair enough. And I guess this last question to finish off for our session is, do you ever learn a language/skill, then attempt a side project using it? Or do you prefer to start a side project and then develop the skills required as the project progresses?
That's a really good question. So the first part is, yeah, like I'll try and force myself to learn a specific technology. That's why I go into that side project. But like I mentioned earlier, like I'll try and partner with someone that knows something that I don't know, so that when the side project's done, I can go back and take a look at it and see how it was actually built out, and then that kind of teaches me afterwards, right? So yeah, both ways. You can totally do that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but again, thank you so much for talking today to Patrick. And if you have any more questions, please direct them towards the Discord and the Discord channel. And thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. And thank you, Patrick.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, everyone. Bye.